Welcome to this explainer. It's actually kind of crazy to think about, but the true cost of a leather bag is almost always locked in months before a single stitch is even sewn. Today, we're going to completely unpack the hidden complexities of the leather supply chain and hand you the ultimate sourcing toolkit. Whether you're a seasoned merchandising pro or a buyer just looking to seriously level up your material game, understanding the full life cycle of leather is absolutely crucial for making smart, profitable decisions.
So let's dive right in by confronting the ultimate sourcing trap that professional buyers face every single day. Have you ever wondered why two leather bags sitting right next to each other on a showroom floor, looking almost completely identical, can have dramatically different prices, wildly different quality levels, and totally different lead times? Well, the answer actually starts long before that bag is ever put together.
Here is our game plan for today. We'll hit the sourcing trap, move into the rawhide reality, explore tanning and crust, break down finishing and yield risks, and finally wrap up with a 7-question checklist that will absolutely protect your budget.
All right, Section 1, the sourcing trap, the illusion of price.
Look, it's totally natural for buyers to want to optimize for the lowest cost per square foot upfront, but that cheap price tag is usually an illusion. That lowest upfront cost almost always explodes into a massive total cost once you hit the factory floor. Why? Well, because cheap leather usually means dropping yields, way more natural defects, and agonizingly slow production because your workers literally have to meticulously cut around all those flaws. Plus, you get a huge spike in product rejections. You really aren't just paying for the material, you are paying for the efficiency of your entire manufacturing process.
Moving on to Section 2, rawhide reality, where quality begins.
To understand those hidden costs, we have to look at the messy reality of the rawhide. Because, let's face it, a cow out in a pasture isn't exactly worrying about keeping its skin pristine for your next luxury handbag run. They get tick marks, they scrape against barbed wire, they get branded. These rawhides are preserved with salt to stop bacterial damage before they even ship to the tannery. But they carry that entire history with them, including things like flake cuts from the skinning process and parasite damage.
And here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. These defects never truly disappear. They don't just magically vanish in the drum. Tanning might make these blemishes a little less visible, sure, but they remain a permanent, physical part of the material. This is exactly why your leather selection and grading strategy has to begin way before the tanning process even starts. You are buying that animal's entire history, scars and all. Which brings us to Section 3, tanning and crust, the supply chain journey.
Okay, so the hides get soaked, limed, and fleshed. And then you hit that first major industry milestone you always hear about, wet blue. This just means the leather is chromium tanned and stabilized for storage. A lot of buyers mistakenly think the job is pretty much done at wet blue, but nope, that's just the start. There is a massive journey ahead involving retanning, dyeing, fat liquoring, which adds essential oils back in, drying, and staking to soften it. Every single one of these steps fundamentally changes the material's softness, color, and strength. And only after all of that do we finally reach the crust leather stage.
Now, what's super interesting about the crust stage is that it's essentially your best, and honestly, your last, real opportunity to approve quality before making corrections becomes impossibly expensive. When the leather is in the crust stage, meaning it's dried but doesn't have its final cosmetic finish yet, this is when experienced buyers break out the magnifying glass. They're checking grain quality, verifying thickness, assessing just how bad those natural defects are, and estimating the yield. Catch a problem here and you can fix it. Wait until it's finished, you're looking at a very expensive headache.
All right, Section 4, finishing and yield risks, the final cut. This is where the final look comes to life. Whether you're coating it, embossing it, polishing it, or printing on it. You've got your common finishes like aniline, pigmented, pull-up, or suede. But remember, whether you go for a highly processed look or something completely raw, you are always making a trade-off between a pristine appearance and authentic character. A heavy pigment will easily hide those barbed wire scratches, but it might make the leather feel kind of plastic. On the flip side, a pure aniline shows off all that beautiful, authentic natural grain, but it leaves every single imperfection completely exposed. You really have to decide what actually fits your brand's DNA.
Once we enter manufacturing, material yield becomes the absolute dictator of your bottom line. Just think about the sheer complexity going on here. Pattern cutting, skiving down those edges, applying reinforcements, stitching, precise edge painting, assembly, and final finishing. Every single one of these steps requires viable, usable material to work with.
To put that into perspective, let's say your team orders exactly 1,000 square feet of leather for an upcoming production run.
Well, the harsh reality is that you are rarely, if ever, going to get 1,000 square feet of usable material out of that order. Because of all those scars and tick marks we talked about, you might end up tossing 20 to 30% of your initial investment directly into the scrap bin as your cutting team tries to dodge the flaws. So, your sourcing calculations absolutely must account for that waste. If your brand demands flawless, premium panels for a high-end bag, your yield drops significantly and your costs are going to skyrocket.
And that brings us to Section 5, the 7-question buyer checklist. This is a practical, navigational toolkit specifically for professional sourcing teams.
Seriously, if you're on a sourcing team, take a screenshot of this right now. This is your professional armor. Asking these 7 exact questions before you place any order is a total game changer. First, secure the hide's origin so you avoid baseline quality disputes. Are you getting European hides with fewer scratches or something else? Lock in that usable yield percentage and the expected defects. Your budget doesn't just blow up on the cutting floor. Demand proof of regulatory compliance to avoid absolute nightmares at customs. And finally, pin down the exact minimum order quantities, lead times, and the factory's cutting standards. Make this checklist mandatory for your team, and you instantly take control of the variables that normally derail production.
When you actually use a checklist like this, you completely shift your focus away from that dangerous illusion of the cheapest upfront price. Instead, you move toward a strategy that guarantees total value. You start evaluating the total actual cost, the consistency of the quality across multiple batches, and whether your supplier actually has the capability to deliver on what they're promising.
Because at the end of the day, understanding this massive hundreds of steps process all the way from a salt-cured hide to the edge paint on a finished handbag doesn't just prevent costly mistakes. It empowers your entire team to build a significantly stronger brand. A premium leather product isn't just stamped out in a factory overnight. It's the direct result of hundreds of educated, strategic decisions made across the entire supply chain.
So take a second and reflect on your own supply chain right now. What is the single biggest challenge you face when sourcing leather goods? Is it unpredictable yields? Negotiating with tanneries? Start using this 7-question toolkit today to take back control and actually solve those daily hurdles. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really can't wait to guide you through our next deep dive.